Okay guys, so we have iOS 14 loaded up on our device here, and we're just going to give a quick overview of all of the features of iOS 14, all the new features, and please forgive me if I miss any. These are just the ones that we noticed at first and some that were presented at WWDC. Now, traditionally, let's go check out our kind of build number and information about this update. So if we go to the software version, you can see there, software version iOS 14. If we tap on that, our new build number is 1885301V, and the V at the end does mean that this is very unstable, and I don't mean that literally. It's just the farther down the alphabet the letters go, the more unstable a iOS version is. Now, in using this for the past 15 to 20 minutes, I've noticed that this is less stable than one might like. So if you need a stable build of iOS, I do recommend staying on iOS 13.6 betas or any other release that you're on, and maybe wait until a public beta comes out. This is the first developer beta, so don't expect much as far as stability goes, but so far it's not terrible, but I do notice a few glitches here and there. Now, one thing that I wanted to point out is in iOS 13.6, I believe, the second beta, I had 190 gigabytes available. Now I only have 164. So hopefully that changes. I'm not sure exactly what's going on there, but that was a pretty significant decrease in available storage. Now, modem firmware is now 1.50.14 on my iPhone 11 Pro Max. Now, below that, we also see something new here. We have a carrier lock. So this is SIM locked, and basically this is a new additional menu that was added to the About screen in iOS 14 here. So it just shows what your carrier lock is, and if you were going to sell your iPhone or give it to someone, this is actually a really useful tool so they can see what the carrier lock is, or if it's basically not locked to any carrier specifically. Now, specifically for my carrier, Verizon, I did see that we got a new carrier firmware here, but that was about it in the About section of the Settings app. Now, if we go back into General here, we actually have an additional menu, and that is Picture-in-Picture. So I can elect to start Picture-in-Picture automatically. Basically, if I start playing a specific movie or something like that, let's go over to Netflix. And if I go ahead and start playing something, it will automatically go into picture-in-picture mode when I go back out. So let's go ahead and play whatever movie is here up top. And as you can see, it's playing there. So let's turn the volume down there. And as you can see, we can move this around. So picture-in-picture is working quite well just right off the bat. And if I slide it over to the left, as you can see, it just hangs over there. Slide it over to the right, hangs over there. And this is actually very good. It's very smooth. It almost looks like what they were doing at WWDC. Looks like a very smooth kind of picture-in-picture mode here. So I can, of course, go back into full screen, and then that goes back into Netflix. So that's with it starting automatically. Of course, if you don't want it to start automatically, you can select that. But yeah, for me, I'll just leave that on. But that's picture-in-picture, and it works really well, as you just saw. So I do recommend testing that out if you are on the betas here. Okay, so something else that I noticed right off the bat was a new menu here. It is called the home screen menu. So this allows you to customize certain things about your home screen. So new app downloads, you can select where those appear. So you can have them added to the home screen, or you can add them to the library and then add those icons to your home screen when you need them. You can also select notification badges for show in app library. So let's go ahead and take a look at that app library. So basically, I am seeing all the notifications for my various apps. You can turn that on or off, but we'll get back into that app library in just a second after we go through the settings app here. Now, Control Center. I did notice that we do have something new here. It's called sound recognition. We also have sleep mode as well. And we'll go ahead and add those two items to our Control Center and take a look at what is there. Now, we'll go over the Control Center in just a little bit, but as you can see, it looks a little bit different. I have a lot to say about this, and I actually have a lot of good things to say about it. So We'll get into that sleep mode in just a second. Basically, the sound recognition, if we turn this on, your phone will listen for certain things here and it will alert you if any of these things are recognized. So let's say a fire alarm goes off, you can select that and your phone will notify you if a fire alarm is going off. Now, this is for people that wear AirPods or anything like that. Maybe you have noise cancellation turned on. You can go ahead and turn on all of these alerts and it will notify you when those alerts are basically happening. Now, I'm going to turn that off just for now, and we'll go ahead and get back to that just a little bit later. Now, going back into the settings app, we'll back out of the control center. And if we go down to wallpapers, you can see that we have new wallpapers. Now, these are all the ones that you saw at WWDC. We have 3 new wallpapers here at the top, all with light and dark modes. So this is the first one and the primary one that they were showing at WWDC. This is a second version, kind of like a bluish green, and has a little bit of silver there in the background. And this is more of a darker version, which I really like for darker themed UI and everything like that. So new wallpapers there, kind of exciting. But I do personally like the one that they were showing on screen. I think that's the best one. It looks really good. Now, if we go into battery health, I just wanted to show you something really quickly here. My battery health did go down after updating to iOS 14, so I'm not exactly sure if that's a bug or not, but just if you guys have that kind of degradation in your maximum capacity, just be aware that might happen with the iOS 14 update. Now let's go back out here and let's go into the privacy menu, because Apple talked a lot about privacy in their keynote today, and they actually have a new menu specifically for tracking here. So if we go into the tracking menu, you can allow apps to request to track. You can turn that on or off. Now, I doubt that you'll be seeing any apps right now requesting to track anything simply because they haven't had enough time to develop their apps for iOS 14. But as this app tracking feature comes online and they have to request for basically to track your stuff, that will kind of pop up when they release those versions of those apps that ask for that stuff. Now, in the messages menu in the settings app here, Apple did mention that we have a new mentions feature. So in a group chat, you can actually mention people, and you have a new setting here, notify me. You can turn that on or off basically when someone mentions you in a group chat. So definitely turn that on or off depending on what you want for group chats. But I think this is a great feature. They've had this on Instagram, but they haven't brought it to iMessages, and notify me is going to be a huge feature for group messaging in iMessage. So definitely check that feature out if you are on the betas. Now we're going to back to the home screen here and take a look at some of the new home screen kind of features that Apple's added within iOS 14. So if we go to the left here, this is our widget page, and if we go ahead and hold down on the widgets, you can see that I can edit and add all of the widgets that were available before. Or I can go ahead and press this plus button and go and add any of the kind of like smart widgets. I'm going to call them smart widgets here, and add these to my widget page. So let's say I want to add fitness. I can go ahead and select from these 2 categories. And if I want to select anything else, like maybe batteries, they have these 2 menus, the square and then kind of more rectangle. And then you have this huge square that was what we were seeing before. Now I'm going to go back to fitness and just add one of these here. So let's go ahead, add a small one. And as you can see there, I can move this around to that side, or I can move it onto my home screen, and we'll get to the one that's on my home screen already. So here you can just tap on any of these widgets and go directly into the app. There's nothing really going on with the battery widget. It doesn't really show any percentages, so hopefully in the future it does do that. It's just kind of a visual representation of charge levels for all of your connected devices. But yeah, this is how the widget page looks now. I in the future hope that maybe app makers like Tesla and other app makers develop their kind of widgets to look a little bit more uniform with the current widget format there. Now let's get into the widget that I have on screen here. So I move this over to my second screen, and I can move this anywhere I want. So if I go to edit home screen, I can move this in between any of the rows here, and yeah, it's pretty cool. but I'm going to go ahead and just leave that there. And this is actually one that you can switch. So it's a basically smart kind of widget here where I can go ahead and switch between Siri suggestions. I have weather, calendar, news, maps, and notes. Now, if I hold down on this and edit the stack, I can go ahead and rearrange all of those options as to how I like them. So I'm going to move maps up here, notes up here, and now those will be strategically placed. So as you can see, the changes are reflected here in this stack that I made. And you can, of course, make this stack whatever size you want. This is the biggest size, but you can make it a smaller size, more like a square. It can fit within your icons there. But definitely check this out. The stacks is actually working really well. It's very smooth, as you can see on screen here. I'm actually very pleased with that. And if just tapping on it, I can go directly into an app, and it almost seems like the app was already loaded and working as I tapped on it. It doesn't have to update or anything. So that looks very well refined, especially for a first beta here of iOS 14. Now, let's go into some of the features in the control center. So it looks like the Home app and the Studio HomePod have kind of been expanded here so that I can get more visual representation, bigger visual representation of what these things are doing. Now, one thing that I did notice is holding down on some of the UI here doesn't exactly work. So it's just very confusing. I have to go up. I basically have to swipe up and then they'll work. So that's one bug that I found in iOS 14. It's not that bad of a bug. It's just something to be aware of. So if those controls are not working, just swipe down all the way and you should be able to use those. I'm sure in the next beta, that bug will be fixed. Now let's check out the Translate app. This is something that Apple previewed during WWDC, and it's definitely something that I would really love to see. Google has their own iteration of this, and it works quite well. So let's see exactly how Apple's does here. Now I'm going to go English to, let's go ahead and do Spanish, just whatever they had there. So English to Spanish, and let's say Johnny wanted to walk his dog to the park, so he took the bus and went across the street. I know that didn't make any sense whatsoever, but let's see the live translation. So it looks like it has translated. I do not know Spanish, but that looks pretty good to me. But you can actually play it, so you can get a kind of feedback as to how to say it in Spanish.
Johnny quería pasear a su perro hasta el parque y coger el autobús y cruzar la calle.
So maybe if you're trying to have a conversation with someone, you can go ahead and play that, instead of trying to say it yourself, but you can also switch this around. So if someone speaks Spanish into your phone, maybe that will produce the English, not maybe, it will produce the English version of that, and you can go ahead and read off of that. I'm sure Apple is going to expand on this app and its features, but this is a great start, to the Translate app, just because they've never done anything like this before, and having this nice UI laid out here is a very good start. So hopefully they continue development on this and get everything working just a little bit better. For me, I just like it, the kind of easeability of switching things around just a little bit more, and maybe like a live conversation would be cool. So hopefully Apple works on this and gets that more developed. But that's just a small look at the Translate app. Now, one thing that I did notice here is if you swipe down and you go to the new search, you can see here that under emoji, you can now search for emojis. So go ahead and search for any emoji, happy, and it shows you all of the happy faces. So this is really cool, and it just makes searching for emoji just a little bit easier. So as you saw there, if I go ahead and start typing, you can see all the emojis on the top row here, just like what we saw on like the MacBook Pro with the touch bar. They kind of line up just like that. But on the bottom right here, you see our emoji. There's a new kind of like emoji keyboard icon here. Tap on that, takes you back to what you're used to seeing. So that's really cool. Unfortunately, no new emoji just yet, but we likely will be seeing that later this fall. Okay, so something else that we saw during WWDC was the app library. So this is basically Apple's solution to cleaning up your pages. I'm right now not a fan just because it's a little bit weird to me. I might try it and try and get rid of all this clutter here and move that all into the app library. That would be a cool option. So I'll have to go ahead and mess around with that. But basically it arranges all of your apps into different categories based upon what Siri thinks is right. So reference and reading, you can see here I have some of the things that are in different folders over here. So I'd like to be able to create my own folders, and it does look like you can go ahead and edit these so I can move things around based upon what I feel is necessary. So definitely take a look at this. I think it's a pretty good idea simply because you can clean up all this clutter here on your home screen and move that all onto an app library, and it looks a little bit more dynamic than just the rest of the stuff here. Now more on that, I can go ahead and let's see here, go to edit home screen, and if I tap on this bottom kind of like app switcher icon here, I can actually take away that page or this page. I can click done, and as you can see, that page is now gone, and the app library comes up next instead of the third page. Now if I want to bring that back, all I have to do is go ahead and edit the home screen again, tap on this, bring that back, and we're all set to go. So this is actually a pretty dynamic way to rearrange icons and just get rid of a lot of clutter. I personally think that the kind of like style of the app library is just a little bit out there for me, but I am going to try it, and I think this is going to work out really well as far as making kind of like the iOS 14 UI a little bit more cleaner and taking full advantage of these new widgets that you can use across your device. And obviously when app makers make their widgets for iOS 14, they are going to be everywhere. So that is definitely something that we're going to want to see and obviously use more. But as of right now, since we have limited widgets, the app library doesn't seem as important, but do believe me, when app makers start making their apps and start making widgets for iOS 14, you're going to see a lot more of widgets and a lot more of that app library being used. Now, another thing that we saw was Siri. So if we go ahead and basically activate Siri here, we have a new kind of icon here at the bottom and a brand new UI. So I've definitely been waiting for this. Siri has needed an update like this for a very long time. Now it doesn't hold up the bottom of the screen there, and I can go ahead and tap on that to take away like Siri listening. But I can go ahead, tap on this. Let's go ahead and get directions, or let's do something else. What time is it in Beijing right now? So as you can see, everything here is on the bottom for Siri, and then it kind of relays all the information at the top here. What is the square root of 1,457,000? So as you can see, we have that separation, so it's not taking up the full screen here, it's just taking up a little bit of your screen. I can go ahead and tap on this. It's going to take me to like whatever developer created that, but I can go ahead, let's activate Siri again. What's 3 plus 5? So if I tap on that, I can go ahead, enter that into my calculator. That's automatically entered, and then I can go ahead minus like 19, and then it gives me my answer. So it's pretty quick, and I actually do very much enjoy that. In iOS 13, it just took a few seconds to get here and there, and now the new Siri UI is very clean and very quick. If you noticed, let's do another calculation here. What's the square root of 2,567,000? What's the square root of 2,567,000? So as you can see here, it's very fast. It inputted that really quickly, got a calculation, and that was no more than maybe 1.5 to 2 seconds. So Siri is working very quickly, and I've tried this equation before, equations like these, and Siri before did take a little bit more time to develop these answers. So hopefully we're working in the right direction here as far as Siri goes. Now, another thing that we got was kind of a new caller UI. So I'm going to go ahead and activate a call here using FaceTime, and let's see exactly how this is going to work. Okay, so as you can see here, we have a brand new color UI, and I'm calling myself, it's a little bit jank, but basically, as you can see at the top, it's only eating up the top portion of your screen. This happens for FaceTime calls, it happens for regular phone calls, Skype calls, it's just all at the top instead of taking up your full screen. So this is definitely something we've all been waiting for, and it looks a lot better than what we had before. And fortunately, this isn't an option you can change. I really like this, it being at the top here, just segregated, so it doesn't take up too much of your screen. But hopefully in the future, there's an option to bring it down, because for people that have bigger phones like I do, like the iPhone 11 Pro Max, it's kind of hard to reach all the way up to the top there to access your phone calls. It would be nice to have it kind of like slide in down here, so you can access your phone calls maybe with your thumb instead of having to reach with your thumb or use a different finger to access that call UI. But so far, I can't really complain too much about that because that is something we've been asking for a very long time, and that new caller UI does look very, very clean and very good. Okay, so we're in iMessages here, and I'm just starting a message to myself, and some things have noticeably changed here. So for Memoji, we do have a new icon here at the bottom row here. And if we go into edit our Memoji here, go to edit, we have a lot more things going on. So you can change the age, shape of the head. You can change eyes. There's so many options in relation to eyes. There's a lot more customization options. And if you just go through all of these different menus, there's so much more customization that you can do in relation to your Memoji. Now, let me discard that because I didn't want to change that. But they also have, different skin colors here. It gets a little bit more dynamic now that Apple is kind of focusing on just making these customization options as kind of like advanced as possible. And let's go ahead and move over to some of the other options. Obviously, different teeth options here. You have piercing, tongue piercing, all that. Ears, various options there. There wasn't too many options there before, but I can go ahead and select to put like AirPods Pro in or those are actually ear kind of like amplifiers, but I can put AirPods in my ears if I'm a regular wearer of AirPods. And it's cool because I can change the color of not the AirPods, but the kind of like hearing amplifier there. So I can change the color of that. But funny thing, you can't actually change the color of the AirPods. Obviously, Apple didn't want you doing that because they are the traditional white. But you can customize a whole lot more here. Just go through all of these menus. There's definitely a lot to choose from, a lot more to choose from than what we had before. And if you go into headwear, we did see something at WWDC where they had a mask option. It looks like here, the face covering, they do have a mask option. So if you want to play around with that a little bit, you can. Funny joke for what's going on in the world right now with all that. I guess you can go ahead and play around with that when you're going ahead and iMessaging someone. But take a look at all these options. The customization options are very, very extensive now. And it looks like Apple is really kind of adding a lot more options when it comes to your Memoji and, of course, Animoji as well. Okay, so I'm in the Maps app here, and for privacy reasons, I just couldn't show you like the map and everything like that. It shows my exact location. But just to give you a representation, I put in directions to just some random restaurant here, IHOP, and the kind of like directions section of the Maps app does look very different. Everything else pretty much looks the same, but this has changed, so you can select different things here, and it just squared out just a little bit differently here. So we obviously have the car, we have walking options, we have public transportation options, and that's pretty extensive as you can see there. And then we also have rideshare options. Now, we will have bike options here as well in the near future, so Apple will be adding that, and they'll give you kind of biking directions, and they'll direct you if you're on a bike and kind of like the fastest way to get to some place that you have in your destinations on a bike as fast as possible. So that's kind of a just slightly redesigned look to the Maps app. Again, sorry I couldn't show you everything. It just shows my exact location, and we don't want to do that. But let's move on to something else that we saw within iOS 14. Okay, so something else that has changed is basically sleep activity. So Apple has kind of gotten rid of the bedtime feature and kind of revamped that. So if we go into the health app and then go into the sleep category, scroll down here, we can set up sleep again. So it looks like it retained my previous schedule that I had before, but the bedtime feature is now gone. I'll just go ahead and verify that for you. So if we go into the clock menu here, you can see bedtime was in the middle and now it's not. So let's go back into the health app here and get started with setting up my sleep. Now here are 3 different ways my device can help me get better sleep, and obviously you can use your Apple Watch or your iPhone for this. So you can select a sleep schedule, sleep mode can ensure that you're not disturbed, and then wind down is basically a new feature that Apple has created to allow you to wind down at the end of your day to kind of just fall into sleep, kind of take your day and just wind down into your sleep. So maybe around like 10:30 when I go to bed, maybe from like 9:30 to 10, I just start winding down my day. So we'll go ahead, click next. And then I want to get at least 8 hours of sleep, so I want to select that. You can of course change exactly how much sleep you want to get depending on what you need. And then my schedule. This is basically like the bedtime feature. So I set my bedtime at 10:30, wake up by 6:30, and that is my 8 hours of sleep. I can select to have a wake up alarm. I can select how loud the sound is and what sound I want played. And then, of course, I can have the snooze option down there at the bottom. But this is now all through the health app, so I don't actually have to go to that bedtime feature, and this will kind of be like an all-in-one tracking solution for your sleep. Now, I do want to set a schedule for other days. This is something that I didn't have on bedtime feature, and it was actually really annoying because I had to, as you can see, set different alarms for different days. Like Saturday, I have to wake up at 6. Well, I couldn't do that before. So now we're actually going to add a schedule for other days. So like Saturday and Sunday, and what I'm going to do is set that wake up time to 6 a.m. and set that bedtime to 10. So that is actually my schedule, and this is really nice because I can basically set this for a different day. Let's adjust the volume here. Cool. So I'll go ahead and add that. It gave me a short preview of what that is going to sound like in the morning. And look, I have two schedules here, weekdays and weekends. And that is actually a very nice feature to have. I was so mad with the old bedtime feature, not being able to kind of change the days around. And finally, we can do that within the health app. So I'll click next. And then I can have sleep mode. So sleep mode can simplify your lock screen at your scheduled bedtime. So at your bedtime, as you can see here, it just kind of condenses everything together and ensures that you're not getting a bright light or anything like that. So when you turn on your phone or you press the power button, you're not getting this huge rush of bright light at your face. You're just seeing everything kind of like more in a dark themed mode here. So this is very cool, and I actually am going to enable sleep mode when I go to bed. So every night at 10:30 or 10 o'clock on the weekends, sleep mode will be activated during that time. Now I'm going to set a wind down period. I'm going to go ahead and try this later tonight, but I'm going to enable this wind down period of 15 minutes up until the time that I'm supposed to go to bed. Set up shortcuts. I don't really have any shortcuts for going to bed, so I'm not going to set that up, but it's really nice to see that you can have wind down shortcuts to basically control HomeKit devices or anything like that, to basically, maybe start dimming things or turning things off. Some things like that you can obviously do when you're winding down. I'm going to skip that for now, but it looks like we're all set up here. Gives you a rundown of exactly what you're going to be doing. My sleep goal, my weekdays and weekends, bedtime and wake up times, and then features that are on: sleep mode, wind down, and do not disturb turns on at wind down. So that is a very good visual representation of what Apple is kind of progressing towards here, and I'm actually really liking this feature within the health app. So definitely go and set this up if you were using the bedtime feature before, or if you are interested in kind of setting up your sleep app to be a little bit more dynamic. I do have a smart bed, so we'll see exactly how that kind of integrates with this. But so far, so good as I see it here. That is, of course, a new feature within the health app. Definitely go check it out. That is within iOS 14. Now I can go into what it looks like here at the top, health checklist. Make sure the health features on your iPhone and Apple Watch are set up how you want. So I can go ahead and review those. Basically, this is just a rundown of if I have everything set up. I actually do, but it's nice to show that basically Apple is paying attention to that and looking at that. But everything else looks pretty normal here. Nothing too different from what we were seeing before in the health app. And if we go to browse, we do have some new icons here going throughout the kind of browse menu, but not too much going on here. Now we do have this symptom menu for different things, and you can obviously do that on your own, basically record symptoms and everything like that. But yeah, we actually have a lot going on within the health app here in relation to that sleep mode, simply because that was a feature brought to the health app. And I definitely recommend that you go ahead and check that out, if you want to go ahead and track your sleep with your Apple Watch or your iPhone. It works on both devices. Okay guys, so that was iOS 14, just a very brief overview, first look of iOS 14. If you guys have any questions, leave those in the comment section down below. I'll be going more in depth with some of these new features as we continue out throughout the betas here as they get more refined. But thank you so much for watching today. Thank you for today's sponsor of iOS 14 content, ExpressVPN. Definitely check out the link down below. Every 50th user that signs up through that link will get a $300 gift card, so you don't want to miss out on that. But thank you guys for watching this kind of exclusive content, first look content on iOS 14. Definitely get subscribed to see more content on iOS 14, and I look forward to seeing you in that upcoming content. Anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, and hopefully I see you in the next one.